Okay. All right, Ken. I'm just gonna double check with you that I have your permission to live stream and record this for later.
You do.
Outstanding. All right. I will start the stream here now, and we will go live on Twitch. And greetings, everyone. This is my first time doing a live stream interview with anyone, and I was lucky enough to get my friend Kent here to agree to do this. So I'm
I was
super
lucky
excited.
enough to have my friend Jacob ask me to be his first.
Oh, that's too kind. That's too kind. Um, all right. Well, let me check. Okay, let me check my notes. Oh, that's right. I didn't take any because I'm super prepared like that. I just wanted to say that your choice of background is phenomenal. Background
It is real,
is
actually.
phenomenal.
So
Background. That's interesting feedback.
no, that was me actually. I had the Twitch page open, but yes, this is real. I am actually out on a one wheel ride right now, um, and yeah, I just work outside as much as I can when I can find a shaded spot to work. If I don't find a shaded spot, then I find myself with red skin that has been burned. That is very uncomfortable. So yeah, I find a nice shaded spot. It's like in the 90s this week, so it's pretty hot. But
Oh,
Utah is really dry, so if you get into the shade, then it's actually not too bad.
that's fantastic. Yeah, I see you a lot on your on your one wheel. Especially like you took it, I think, to the remix conf and like people tried it out. That was like a
Mm.
big theme thing going on. Everybody wanted to try Kent's one wheel. That was like
Yeah, sorry, that was me again. I moved things, so I wanted to see chat like from. So if you're watching chat, because I just pulled it up. But yeah, I take it everywhere. I actually do have a form that people can fill out to release all liability if you want to try my one wheel. Because it's not because I think people are going to sue me, but because I think that if they break their wrist and their insurance wants money, their insurance will come after me. And so, um, anyway, so yeah, you can sign this thing and I'll let you try out my one wheel. I've never had anybody have any trouble with it or anything, but you can, like, you could accidentally fall over, break your wrist, be out of work for a couple weeks. You could accidentally have it launch off and hit a car, damage a car or something. So it is dangerous. But I literally crashed yesterday, and had I not been wearing this, then I wouldn't be able to type with two hands. In fact, you can see like it ripped here, so I'm getting replacement soon. But yeah, you wear your safety gear and everything's good, and it's super fun. A good time to listen to a podcast.
yeah. No, I'm also very familiar with the like we must take care of our hands. These are our tools. Much
Yeah.
like other trades crafts. Great. No, so one of the other things that, I wanted to talk about was just kind of like in general, how you went from uh software engineer to software engineer educator, to now seemingly to be kind of both at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I never stopped being a software engineer, and I've always been an educator, so it's always been both. Um,
Fair.
and I, but it's like, what am I spending more of my time doing? I guess. And I pretty much started doing education back in 2014. As soon as well, even before I graduated from college, I did a workshop for my classmates that I just threw together. I got Firebase to sponsor some pizza, so people would show up. I like threw a little mini workshop. I think it was like 2 or 3 hours where I taught people Angular JS. It was pretty cool. Um, and so my first course that I made was for Egghead, and that was in 2014. It was based on a talk that I had done for uh, Jots authentication with AngularJS and Jots. And so yeah, that was it's always been a part of what I've been doing. And then when I switched to full time educator, that was when I quit PayPal, and that was after testing JavaScript was launched, and I realized that I could make it full time as an educator, um, as far as like taking care of my family and stuff was concerned. And so yeah, when I realized that I was making more money on my side hustle than on my day job, I decided I didn't need both, and I could just have the side hustle and make it my full hustle. And so I did that for 3 years, and then Remix just won me over, and decided to join up with Remix. And there's a lot more involved in all of those pieces, but I'll stop talking now.
Don't worry, we'll get to remix. So one of the things that I always wondered, and honestly I could have asked you at any time, but why not now? So one of those things was, did like authoring a lot of those libraries, were those the things that kind of uh I would say formed your philosophies and kind of the things that you would later be building into your education and blogging and whatnot.
Yeah, totally. So a lot of people would ask me, "How do you know what to write a blog post about?" And it was never too difficult for me because I was working on something. There's something like every day. If you're working, there's something that you did that day that would be interesting to write about. And so, yeah, my day to day work definitely fed into the content that I would produce, and became the source um, of the content that I wrote, and the topics that I would use. And then it always just was uh, the stuff that was interesting to me was the stuff that I would teach. And so actually, when I was at PayPal, because I would come every couple months and just do uh, little unofficial workshops that I would just like throw together. I'd say, "Hey, I'm coming to PayPal. I reserved this room. Come and learn a workshop." And actually, you can see some of those because I would live stream those to YouTube. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I've got a couple of really good workshops that I gave to PayPal. But yeah, I because I was doing that, the PayPal has the department for educating engineers at the company, and so they wanted me to come join them, but they said that like I would need to teach whatever it was that the engineers needed to learn, and I was not really interested in teaching necessarily what the engineers needed to learn. Like if they need to learn some Java framework, I don't want to teach that. And so I said, no, no, I'm not going to do that. I teach what I want to teach, and then just the people who are into it, and that's great. And the people who aren't, and that's fine too. There's enough people in the world who are into testing at the time and React later, and now Remix, that I can always just teach the thing that I'm interested in, and I'll find my people.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds amazing, especially this sticking to your passions, and even though you could have gone the route of making, more money doing these other things. But I wanted to kind of touch on another really big, and this one's really special to me because I was, part of it as well in the community, and that's Epic React. So I just want to touch on like what inspired that, because there had been some resources out there that had touched on like paradigms of teaching that were similar to this, but this was in itself honestly the first of its kind that I'd seen and had been wildly successful.
Yeah, so you're you're just kind of wondering where it came from.
Yeah, what inspired it?
Yeah. Well, I've been teaching React for something like 6 years. Let's see. I joined up with PayPal at the very end of 2015, and I've been doing React ever since. I'd been playing around with it for a little bit before then, but only really, let's see. Actually, I think no, no, I'm pretty sure 2016 was the first workshop I gave on React. I don't think that I started teaching React before I started using it at work. And so, yeah, I've been teaching React for over 6 years, and these workshops, uh, like I started with one, and then I realized there was more I wanted to fit into that, or I didn't have enough time for that, so I'd split it up into two, and then there was more, and so I want to talk about performance now, and so I'd split it up, and I had 11 workshops that were like full day workshop, um, 6 to 8 hour workshops, and um, as great as it is to deliver a workshop to a group of people, and it is great, there were far more people who wanted to take the workshop than I could physically deliver the workshop to, whether it be traveling to them or even doing it remotely. I didn't want to do a webinar. So I thought, well, I could just record these and record the workshops and make that available. Very similar to what testing JavaScript was, except testing JavaScript was basically a series of egghead courses. So there were no exercises, there weren't any, it was all just like very focused, small video sort of things, not very interactive. It was more on you to take notes and apply it to your whatever company you're at. That works super well. People still love it. And actually, I wasn't sure whether recording a workshop was going to work very well. And so what I did was I actually had a workshop for testing Node applications, and I hadn't put that into testing JavaScript before. So I recorded that workshop testing Node applications. So if you go through testing JavaScript, you'll find that all of the modules are the same format, except for the testing Node applications is workshop, where you've got exercises and stuff. And so that ended up working out really well. People liked that format a lot, and so I thought, okay, well, we'll just do the same thing for Epic React, and or for the React workshops. We'll call it Epic React, and yeah, and that's as far as like the inspiration. It kind of just fell out of the fact that my workshops didn't scale beyond what I could scale to, and so it was innovative innovation out of necessity, I guess.
That's phenomenal. And as I said before, it was I had seen like courses and tutorials that kind of touched on the same paradigm of teaching, but never kind of brought so many of the pieces together in that same way. And
Mm.
it was just the fact that it kind of hit a lot of different learning styles, as well as like it cared about like actual memory theory, was
Oh yeah, yeah, I can talk
fascinating.
about that. So that all came from my workshop experience of actually teaching the workshops, and this is why Epic Remix isn't a thing yet, because it takes a really long time to do things the way that I do them. But it pays off in the end. So since I've been giving workshops for such a long time, like before I even graduated back in 2013 is probably when I gave that first workshop. I've had a lot of experience in teaching workshops, and I realized that if you can't remember what you've learned, then the whole experience was uh, basically a waste. And so, not a waste. I mean, I'm sure we had a good time and all, but like the goal is for you to go through the workshop, remember what you learned, and so that you can apply it when you need it. And so I decided to focus on retention. And I don't remember who recommended this book to me, but somebody recommended a book, Make It Stick. And I read that and was really amazed at, well, first of all, I was really sad that I'd never read it while I was in school, because it was targeting people who are learning. I really wish that I'd had those strategies when I was in school. um, but I actually even emailed the authors and I said, your book is really focused on learners, and it's focused on people who are like in a semester long course. How do you apply this sort of thing in a day long workshop? And they gave me a couple ideas. Of things to do to try and adapt some of those concepts to just a day long workshop, and that's where lots of my workshop stuff came from. So I used to uh, demonstrate an API. So, like, if I'm going to teach you how to create an element in React, I used to have uh, a couple minutes where I would demonstrate it for you. I'd like do an exercise basically, and you'd watch me do that. And then I'd have another exercise that was basically the exact same thing, especially with something that's so fundamental as creating an element. Like, you can't, how many variations of creating an element are there? Like, there are none. So you are literally doing the exact same thing I just did. Um, and so what that would do is it would just turn into this thing where people would take into to themselves what I would say and then just regurgitate what I did. And at the end of it, they don't know anything. They didn't learn anything. Um, they may it's basically like reading a paragraph about it but not actually applying it because they didn't really apply it anything. They just did what I did. And so what I changed that to based on make it stick was I said, what if I give them the resources they need and then tell them to do it before I teach it. And so I say, here's the problem that you're trying to solve. Here are some API docs and things for things that you're going to need to know to solve that problem. Now go solve it. And what the magical thing that happens from that is you might get it right, which is great, but you hopefully will get it wrong because you'll remember it better if you make some assumptions and then those assumptions turn out to be wrong. And so um, like it just like science says that it solidifies into our brain better if we get something wrong. There's a strong emotional attachment to this knowledge, and that emotional attachment is what keeps it solid in our brains. So yeah, focusing on helping people um, uh, to actually experiment and try things out themselves. That's why all of my exercises, I just introduce the problem. Here's some background information, and like maybe even some code examples. But I'm not teaching anything. I'm just showing you stuff, and then you go through it, and then I'll go through it after you're all done, so that you can see how I did it, and I can answer all the questions that over the years that people have asked me that I know that people are going to ask. And then, in a live workshop, you can ask more questions. If you're going through Epic React, you can come to my office hours if you have questions, or go to the Discord. A lot of people on Discord have answers. And so and anyway, that ended up working out really well because it's a focus on retention. I just want people to remember. And then at the end, I would always have people write down what they learned, even if it was a little uncomfortable. So I'd say, you have 60 seconds to 2 minutes to write down what you learned, take notes, because that's another thing for Make It Stick was elaboration, being able to say in your own words what you learn. And sometimes people would come up with questions through that. They'd say, actually, I thought that I knew this, but I need some clarification. And so, yeah, trying to rephrase in your own words what you learned, that also has been helpful. And as a part of that, I would make a feedback form that you would go through. So you'd open up a feedback form, you'd say what you learned, and then you could also leave feedback on the exercises. And so over the years, I haven't checked recently, there are probably approaching 10,000 responses on this feedback form. And and so through that, I can solidify and improve the exercises. Somebody will say, "Oh, this didn't make any sense. It was too fast," or whatever it was. I could say, "You're right. I'm going to split that up into two exercises or something like that." And I did that a lot. Make fine grained changes to the exercises until finally I said, "Okay, it's ready," and I recorded it, and then we have Epic React.
That's amazing. I mean, the thing you mentioned about not having that book while you were in school, I specifically I tutored in college, and what I got known for, I worked in the Veterans Resource Center as a monitor, and I would tutor while I was in there. And what I got known for was I could tutor people in any course. Didn't matter if I'd taken it or not. Like people were just like, "How are you going to tutor if you've never taken this course?" I'm like, "Because I'm not going to teach you the content. I'm going to teach you how to take notes and how to study and how to memorize things that are not just flashcards."
Mm.
And when I would go through all these different memory techniques, note taking techniques, all these different things, I would have people go from D's and C's up to B's and A's. And I never taught content. I never was like, all right, let's go over the, the cellular powerhouse, like never touched that stuff. So yeah, it's not just like, to me, it's not just theory. It's like I've seen it in action. And then I saw it in action with Epic React and I was just thrilled. So the next the next topic that I wanted to go over was community building, something that I'm personally extremely passionate about, and uh, one of the communities that has been probably the closest to my heart because it facilitated so much of my open source passions, including like my first open source contribution came from your community when you were like, "Hey, I'm interested in this flag on Create React app," and I was like, "I could probably do that." And and ever since then, it was from there, working in the community for Epic React, being a moderator on the Kent C. Dodds server, and then as far as going to following like these ideas I had since you know before my coding boot camp about uh, crowdsourcing and gamification of essentially contributing to code. uh, all of that, all of that comes just like from this interaction that I had with this one community, this one community. So I was very interested in your ideas around community building, maintaining communities because they're not easy to keep healthy. I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Community, I think. So I'm a firm believer that happiness comes from the relationships that we have, and life is just really miserable if you don't have good ones. And so, I mean, of course, you take care of your family relationships and things like those are the people who stay around forever. But in the um, broader sense of community in um, our industry, I think it's just so much more fun to have other people to enjoy it with. And so the KCD community started from um, as I was ramping up Epic React, actually. So with testing JavaScript, there was a point where I realized, hey, I can't, like, I don't want to just throw this thing over here and say, okay, you can buy it and just leave them to nothing. You know, there might be questions and stuff. And so, but I can't scale to the number of questions there could be by myself. And so, I decided to put together a Spectrum. If you remember Spectrum.chat, that was bought by GitHub years ago, and so I had a Spectrum for testing library, and that worked sort of okay. And then so I decided to put together a Spectrum for testing JavaScript, and yeah, it was like it was all right. Like um, it was not great, but like it's it was a place that people could go and ask and answer questions and stuff. And so with Epic React, I was like, I want to. It wasn't great, so I wanted to switch to something else, and I think it was the React Flex community had moved from Slack to Discord maybe a year or two earlier, and I had never used Discord before, but I thought, you know what, Discord sounds great. Let's do Discord, and so I created an account and created a Discord server, and I watched a video that was like how to set up a Discord server, and they had some ideas on like different channels, and so I put together a couple channels and some roles, um, and then yeah, then I invited people to it, and they started joining, and then eventually, like of course I want to maintain control over that community, not let it get away from me, so that it stays healthy and also, I wanted to just know who was in the community, not just like random people, but like people who were committed to me and not my content and like what I was trying to build. So the community, and um, And so to do that, I thought, let's add a little bit of friction here to joining. Especially at that time, Discord didn't really have any friction for joining. Like there was you could have, they didn't even have the welcome interstitial thing that like pops up. It was just like, there you are, whatever channel is the default channel, you show up there. And and so like people would normally have like their terms of service. There's plenty of bots that do this now where you have like this message you have to add an emoji reaction to, and then it'll give you a role so you can have access to the server. And that never like seemed to work very well, right? Because people can check it off without reading it or even like paying it any heed at all. And so I thought I need a little bit more friction than checking off an emoji. So that's when I started working on the Discord bot. Um, and so now when you join the KCD community, you get you can you can see two channels. One of them is what channel? What's it called? It's like a instructions. Where's my thing? Uh, yeah, a tips. Yeah, you see the tips channel that shows like welcome to the community. Here are the different channels we've got here. And here's the bot. You need to go answer questions to the bot. The other channel is a special unique channel just between you and the bot. Um, that is a temporary channel where the bot asks you questions, and it's pretty rad actually, and it works really well. Let's see how many people we have in this community now. If we look at, and it's always so easy to find on the in the mobile app. Here, members, boom, 16,000 members. Every single one of those people, well, with the exception of maybe the first thousand, have gone through this Discord bot that I wrote, which is actually pretty cool. Um, and it just asks basic questions like, what's your name? And I automatically change your display name to the name that you give, because I wanted it to feel more real, like we're not just internet people, but we're actually people with names. And you can of course change it to whatever you want later. But I ask for your email address, and you get added to my list, and I say that, so that you know, that might make people think twice about like, oh, do I really want to jump into this? And if you think twice about giving me your email address, then like you're probably not gonna. This isn't the community for you. This community is a place where you're gonna get emails from me. And then that's just most people are pretty happy to get emails from me. So if you're not, then unsubscribe. What are you doing? So yeah, and then I also ask about the code of conduct. I say, do you accept the code of conduct? And I link to that to my website. And people always just say yes immediately. Sometimes I watch people as they're answering these questions, and they'll just say yes immediately. And then the next question is a little test to see if you actually read the code of conduct. And it always takes people a second longer to answer that question, because I just ask you what's the email address you send violations to. And that communicates two things. One, it's that, okay, you actually do need to pull open this code of conduct. Like you got to go there. And then two, um, uh, everybody knows what happens when there's a violation. We know that there's an email address that will accept emails for code of conduct violations. I don't know if it's because of that, or just because people are in general really nice, but I've never received an email about a code of conduct violation. I have had a couple of like spam bots and like some stuff like that. People's accounts get hacked, and so they got through because they're a normal person, but then their account gets hacked, and now they're posting all over and stuff. And we had one little kerfuffle around pronouns, or using the word guys in the Discord. That was a bit unfortunate, and where people got a little heated. But that is it. Like for the rest of it, I think we added enough friction to keep the jerks out, and that is it's been awesome. Now I don't have uh, as much time as I used to dedicate to this because I'm full on remix now. Um, but I do hang out in there, and I still do the office hours, and I will still live stream and chat in there and stuff. And there are people talking over there all the time. I would start giving special shout outs to people, but then I'd feel bad that I miss people. Um, but I think I saw Michal is watching, and so yeah, huge shout out. Thank you, Michal, Rupert, Peter, we just have really, really awesome Ashley, Ryan. Holy smoke, she's amazing. Artem, yeah. See, now I'm doing shout outs. Like I said, I wasn't gonna do. Boa is also awesome. So we've got some really awesome people who are moderators in the community and just like general helpers. Jacob, you were really early on. And the early people are the ones who really help shape what the community is going to be like. And so I'm really glad that you were participating so early on because you really helped shape what it was. And also Tiger, he's not around as much recently, but just like his enthusiasm and his excitement around things, I think really helped shape our community as well. So um, yeah. Anyway, lots. I actually, I just said Tiger's not as active. I think he is. He still does hang out sometimes, but yeah, we've got some really good people, and I think it's not. I wouldn't say that it's incredibly difficult to have a community that's just a really good place that people want to hang out. Um, but it does take some intentionality. Like you do have to be thoughtful about it, and monitor the situation, and enable people to help, and encourage them, and give them a reason to want to. So
Yeah,
there you go.
I remember that was a big part of early on, especially with the uh, giving mod roles out to people. And I remember the conversation with you where I was like, Kent, are you really sure you want to give mod out to all these people? Like, because like it went from like 2 mods to 10 mods in like just like a week,
Yeah.
and I was like, you were like, let's see what happens. But it's either
I
gonna.
like honestly, I try to think out what's the worst case scenario, and worst case scenario is we get a mod who goes rogue and decides to delete people's messages and stuff. It's like, well, all right, how bad is that? Is that really bad? I ban them, and then the problem's done. Like um, and we of course we haven't had anything like that. The worst part about it is that somebody says they want to be a mod and then they don't do anything, which okay, that's fine. That's I nobody's being paid on that server. Nobody makes any money out of it. I definitely give more than I make because I don't make anything off of that server. It is a funnel for sure. So like it is a sales funnel for me, but and it's also just a place for people where they can connect their testing JavaScript and their Epic React and their KentCDots.com accounts to it. And so like there is some aspect of it that it's part of my business. But yeah, I can't expect a moderator uh, to to moderate really, honestly, because like nobody is there can't be any expectation really beyond as long as you don't do anything wrong or abusive with your power as a moderator, um, then you can be a moderator. That's fine. So
That's all right.
yeah, I'm happy with the moderators we've got. They're awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's the few what did you call it? Mega mods was the funny.
Yeah,
uh
yeah. I can't. I think that the mega mods just have the ability to ban people and kick people, um, which is really useful when I'm asleep or something and something really bad's going on. And then also I should mention that Artem, I can't pronounce Iskayato or something like that. He is the when he was putting together his community for MSW. I had a channel for MSW because it's part of testing JavaScript and I love it and I think it's great.
yep.
And he just decided that his official Discord is the KCD Discord and that channel. And so he is actually an admin on the KCD Discord for that
Yep.
reason. So yeah, it's him and me running the show from the admin perspective.
Absolutely. No, and so speaking of your office hours on there and the Discord bot, something that you've done a lot and I think partially led into what we're going to discuss next is that you build in public and you
Yeah.
specifically are willing to interact with people in the community while you're building. So it's not just like, hey, watch me build stuff and talk about it. It's like, hey, watch me build stuff and we should talk about it. And it's led to some really interesting things like the Discord bot, as well as things that eventually turn into much bigger, bigger stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that it's kind of interesting. So there are some streamers who seem to stream for the community, um, and I do that for my office hours. Office hours is the time where we can talk. You can ask me questions. I'm 100% there for you. But I also stream where it's 100% for me. And you're welcome to come hang out, but I am working on something and I'm not going to answer your questions. And people sometimes can't, don't understand that. And so that's actually why on my YouTube live streams, I totally ignore the live chat. Also because YouTube is the worst and people are racist and stuff.
That
And
chat is like they need to fix their moderation for that chat.
yeah, it's so bad.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's so
awful.
bad. So, but Twitch it makes it really difficult to hang on to videos long term as well. So that's why I stream to YouTube instead. But yeah, so I moved all chat to the Discord server, and so if you want to participate when I'm working on something and just live streaming, building in public, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm not here for you. You're here for me. And I actually started live streaming as a mechanism for focusing. So I don't get distracted by Twitter or anything. I'm just 100% like, because people are watching. Like I've got to do something, and it also like it forces you to rubber duck because you're like talking and explaining things, and then occasionally people will have ideas and stuff, and for a while there I actually used Zoom, and so people could join the Zoom and actually talk. And you've done that to give ideas and just kind of talk things through. That's really nice, except Zoom is just super limited. And so I don't do that anymore. I finally got a machine that can handle OBS. So that's good. But yeah, speaking of, I just realized I'm at 30%, 37% battery. So hopefully we can, this will, I'll turn down my brightness a bit. Yeah, because there's no outlets where I'm at right now. I need to find somewhere that's got a plug. Um, but yeah, um, I really have received a lot of help on my live streams. It's been super helpful for me for staying focused. Centered actually now helps a lot with staying focused. And so I don't uh, necessarily need to stream to stay focused anymore because Centered helps with that. But I like I will often stream and be on Centered at the same time. And that is my favorite type of work. When I can live stream, be on Centered, I've got specific tasks that I'm working on. That is where I am my happiest when I'm developing.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So something I watched evolve, um, and I was kind of busy with my own thing at the time, so there was definitely different directions that occurred. But one thing I saw evolve very interestingly through your working in the open, and then eventually turned into like this like super secret squirrel project was your blog, which has turned into a entire other thing that I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody is interested to hear about.
Yeah. Oh, I could talk about it forever. But yeah, I did live stream the development of a lot of that. That was really cool. Um, yeah, there are probably hours and hours of video on YouTube of me developing my blog. Lots has changed over the time. What was interesting is I was using a framework that was being built. It wasn't done, and so like a lot of features or things that are in the blog, I would do differently because there are features now that are in Remix that didn't exist at the time I was building it. So yeah, kind of a cool thing. But yeah, the blog started out as just a blog. I did get a team. So we had designers, illustrators that were paid. Egghead helped find the people. They found a project manager, or we just used Egghead's project manager, um, and we went through some design discussions of like what we're looking for. Got those designs. I hired Stefan Meyer. I think it's how you say his last name. Um, and so he would implement the designs because I figured like I can do that, but it would just take me more time to ship. And so I just say, hey, you do this. And I took care of all the back end work and wiring things together. Um, and I finished fast because Remix is so productive. So I was like, well, I don't know. Actually, while I was working on it, is when I started thinking, hey, I think I want to do more with this, and that's where the Pokemon Go teams thing came from. Was I thought, hey, I can record people's blog posts. Like I can, if I make them sign in to something, then they can, I can give them better recommendations on the blog posts that at the bottom of the page, because that was one of the design aspects, was you want to be able to get down to the bottom of the page and not be done, right? There's always some other links to take you somewhere else. Like, oh, so you're at the bottom of the podcast page. Well, have you checked out these blog posts? Or you're at the bottom of a blog post, look at these workshops. Or you're at the bottom of the courses, look at the podcast. So it's just so you're always able to go somewhere else. And so that ended up um, making me think, hey, I can be smarter about which podcast or which blog posts I recommend just based on which blog posts they've already read. And so then it's like, okay, now I need a database and user authentication. Uh, that, I can figure that out because I've got time. I finished everything else. And then I thought, hey, let's gamify this, and we'll do a Pokemon Go thing where the blog posts are the gym, and we just, based on how many people are on the team, um, relative to that, how many people have read the blog post, and that's whoever has the most percentage of their team has read it recently owns the blog post. And I think that's just super fun. And then there's an overarching who's the winner. And so I think right now the leader is the red team, followed closely by the blue team. It's pretty close. Yellow team was in the lead for a long time, and then they dropped a bit, but it's super fun. And then like the colors all change based on which team you are. So for me, all the links are blue, except if I'm on a blog post that where the yellow team is the leader or whatever, then all the links are going to be yellow, and it just like made everything more fun. And then I decided to do the Call Kent podcast, where you record a question in the browser and I respond to that in the browser, and then that turns into a podcast episode. Which it occurs to me I need to record a couple of responses to that. But it's super fun. We've got like, I don't know, 60 maybe episodes of that. It's just another place where people can formulate their questions and I can answer. Um, and yeah, it's just fun. It's easy. And yeah, it's definitely not a blog. I tell people my blog is not over engineered, it's just over scoped. It's not the typical developer blog. It's definitely a lot more than that.
That's fantastic. Um, so from there, I was wanting to probably talk a little bit more about, um, we've talked about the KCD community, and we talked about how hard community building is, and I know that you stepped into Remix, and they had a community. What has it been like stepping into that community as somebody who manages and builds communities?
Sorry, stepping into which community?
Oh, the Remix community.
Yeah, yeah. So that being a part of something that's new
Mm,
is really fun because you get to shape things. And Remix especially was cool because it started out as a paid license thing, so you could only have access if you paid. I could have done that for the KCD community in retrospect, where I just like only the people who have access to my courses can be in there.
mm,
Um, I think it would have been different though. I'm glad that I did it the way I did, but yeah, being and it's like it wouldn't make sense for Remix to be a public community anyway, because the only people who could use it had licenses, and there was no reason to be there if you didn't have a license anyway. But what that meant though was that the people who were there were super into it, right? They paid money to use a framework, and so there was a lot of collaboration going on, a lot of excitement, and just people who were super into this. And like they were really patient. It's a developer preview, so like things aren't done yet. So here's like this little script that I wrote to like fix a bug, until they have a chance to fix the bug for reals, and like just all sorts of really fun things. So I'm yeah, it was a really cool thing to be a part of early on. And then I joined like 2 weeks before we open sourced Remix, um, and I'm in charge of the community. That's my job. It's part of one of the things that I do as a director of developer experience. And yeah, that was really fun to be a part of, or it has been. It is really fun to be a part of that community building and like being responsible for making the keeping the community awesome. And we've just got what what makes a community great is when you have active members who are just awesome. And then when somebody has a tough moment, whether it's an active member or just some random person, that the the prevailing voice is calm but firm on what is acceptable and not acceptable in the community. So we've had a couple of times in the remix community where people will talk disparagingly about others or just not be very nice. And I feel like we've got a community where people will jump in really quick and be like, "Ah, that's not how we do things here." You want to talk mean about somebody, you take it somewhere else. We're here to just talk about how great Remix is and how we can make it better. So
Yeah, yeah, passion can be a double-edged sword for sure. Yeah, the really cool thing that I've seen as well is the collaboration that Remix has had with other companies and technologies. Would you want to talk about that a little bit more? I obviously have insight working at Cloudflare.
yeah. So one of the early goals for Remix was to be as um, like we wanted to work with as many things as possible. We want to deploy anywhere and everything. So we needed partners, especially early on. We needed to do the work because we need to prove ourselves first. And now we're hoping that, and now actually, companies like Cloudflare have really put in a lot of work to give Remix some special treatment, which is very appreciated. But yeah, collaborating with all sorts of companies like Cloudflare, Dino, Netlify, Vercel, all of these hosting companies, because hosting is like the first thing that you need to think about when you start building a web app, after you've decided what framework, I guess. Um, and so, yeah, having good answers for that was really critical for us.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I've been seeing more and more this really awesome like cross-platform, cross-company collaboration occurring. Like the even with the like the runtime like work group that recently came out, where it's like Vercel and Dino and everybody's just like, hey, maybe we should stop rebuilding the same wheel over and over again, different ways. So it's really fascinating to see like also these like uh technologies like Remix and like Astro build and all these other things also come together and start talking to each other. Even though technically they're even competing with one another, they're still talking to each other. It's mind blowing to see that. And it's one of those things that I think, can bring about a lot of innovation and change far more rapidly rather than stagnating on an island.
Yeah, yeah. I think we can get more done together than we could get completely when separated. So the um, what is it? The all together is greater than the sum of the parts or whatever. But yeah, so it's been cool to collaborate with a bunch of different people from a bunch of different places.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fantastic. So we got roughly 13 viewers. I was wanting to open it up to everybody for a little bit of Q&A with the bit of time that we have left, which is about 15 minutes. Let's do some Q&A.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, it's just
So
been me
happy to
asking.
talk about anything. Remix. personal life. You can ask me anything, and I will answer the questions I want to, which is probably most of them. But yeah.
Well said. Well, while people type their fascinating questions in, I just want to say thank you for everybody that has come in and followed. That's been phenomenal. Was not expecting so many, to be honest. It's a ton of them from. I see so many familiar names, by the way, from both Twitter, my Twitter Spaces, as well as from KCD. So it's the two fams that I'm most passionate about. So it's fantastic.
It's good to see friends, regular places. All right, we're starting to get some questions.
All
Keep them
right.
coming. Do you want to read those off for me, or do you want me to just read them?
Yeah, let's do this. So tell us about an inspiring experience this year.
Oh man, there was a really good one that I just had.
Oh,
Um,
we just got rated. It just
oh
jumped up
really?
a whole lot of
Oh,
viewers.
nice. Welcome. We're doing a Q&A for those of you joining, so feel
Perfect
free to
timing.
ask your Q's. Actually, I was just thinking about inspiration this morning because I'm not sure. Oh, I'm listening to this book. I want to make sure I get the title right. My fingerprint is not recognized. There we go. It is titled "Inverting the Pyramid," and it is about soccer or football, if you say it properly. And but I'm in the United States, so I say it this stupid way. But yes, it's specifically about tactics and like positions of players on the team. And I was thinking, because I was in an accident recently, I haven't been able to play, and I'm starting to get better where I think I might be able to start playing soon. But I I kind of lost some of my motivation, and in listening to this book, it's starting to inspire me, and to get into it again, and I want to like it, but yeah, but also somebody tweeted at me in reply to another tweet that showed like one touch soccer where like it was just the most amazing play. I can't remember what team it was, but they're just like probably 20 passes before it went into the net, and it was just like every pass was just one touch, boom, 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 all over the place. It was very cool, and I just realized like if you want to do something, go look for inspiration. Because when I was a kid, I watched this movie called Pistol Pete. It was about a basketball player who was a junior in high school, and he got on the varsity team, and like he was super good. And anytime I would watch that, I would want to go out and practice basketball so I could be in the NBA. Same thing with the Sandlot. Anytime I watch that, I want to go play baseball, and and so um, that's not exactly a specific answer to the question, um, but just in general, I think looking for inspiration for whatever it is you want to do, I think is a really good idea. So, like, if you want to be really good at testing, then look for people who are talking about testing. Go to a conference about testing and just look for inspiration. Get yourself excited about it, I guess. So that wasn't the question. I can't think of anything specific um, other than that video of the one touch soccer. That was just amazing. So.
Fantastic. Well, we haven't gotten any questions from the raid yet. I just wanted to say much love to the Rockstar community and appreciate this huge raid, especially for such a small first time streamer like myself. It's truly uh, it just means a lot. It's getting emotional here. Um, so follow up. I guess Michael, of course. Michael, what's your favorite Marvel movie?
Uh, so here's a fun fact about me. Until about 6 or 7 months ago, we stopped doing this. But when my wife and I got married, actually before my wife and I got married, that was over almost over 11 years ago now. Our 11th anniversary is in 2 days. Um, So before we got married, I decided I never wanted to watch another PG-13 movie again. I have actually still never seen a rated R movie in my life. Um, and I just decided, some PG-13 movies are just too dark, they're too violent, and so you have to kind of play like some of them aren't all that bad, some of them are like they got really bad swearing in it. Like I never wanted to play that, decide which like which ones were okay and which weren't. So I just said I'm not watching any PG-13s. And the sad thing was that that was like right before Harry Potter 7 Part 2 came out. So I'd seen all of the Harry Potters except for the very last one. I was like, no, it's not even worth it. This is an easy rule to make and follow, and then I never have to worry about seeing a movie that compromises on what I think is appropriate. And so so yeah, when all of the Marvel movies came out, like as they were coming out, everybody was going to see them. Like people went to Endgame and they're like losing their minds and stuff. And I was totally oblivious to all that. And then the Star Wars stuff starts coming out and everybody's going nuts over it. And yeah, totally oblivious. And then yeah, it was like 6 or 7 months ago. My wife and I decided that it was okay to start watching some PG-13. So all of that's to say that we did actually watch all of the Marvel movies in about a month, all of them. It's like a crazy amount of movies. We watched like 2 to 4 or 5 a week, and yeah. So this is relatively fresh in my mind, and um, I'm gonna have to say like anything with Spider-Man is the best. Period. So
All
I
right.
think No Way Home was one of the greatest movies of all time. Um,
All right.
Into the Spider Verse beats it, but also a Spider Man movie. But man, that was a good one. So yes, all Spider Man, everything is my favorite.
That's fantastic. You put in perspective, by the way, Kent's values around that as well. You all know me on Twitter as well as in my spaces and streaming. I grew up with a mechanic, truck driver, construction worker. That was my father. I swear like a mechanic, truck driver, construction worker. And in Kent's community, I do my best to not swear. And that is completely just purely out of respect for Kent and his values around it. That's it. Honestly, everywhere else, everybody's like, I didn't even know you swear. And I'm like, oh, you're about to learn
That's
a whole
funny.
lot.
Actually, so what's funny is that Remix, Ryan, Michael, and I are the three co-founders, and none of us swears. Sometimes if Michael or Ryan are really mad, I've heard them each swear. But yeah, on a regular basis, we do not swear. And so it's interesting. So some of the other employees at Remix say that the Discord, like our company is the cleanest language they've at any company they've ever worked at before. And sometimes they'll just DM each other so they can swear at with each other sometimes.
That's
So
that's
yeah, that's just our thing. We
that's
don't
va-
swear much.
it's values. Those are also important as long as they're shared. The Again, everybody that rated in, I appreciate all of you being here. Please, click that follow button, and if you have a question for Kent C. Dodds, if even if the question is like, who is this and why are we here, that is
Yeah.
also a valid question. Just to reiterate, Kent has done everything from author libraries like Downshift and React testing library to creating courses like testing JavaScript, Epic React, and is now the director of what was it? Experience, developer experience
Developer experience. Yeah.
at Remix. So if you have any questions about any of these things, you know, education, library authoring, or even what's going on at Remix, please drop a question in the chat. We'll follow up and ask Kent. We got like a f- about 5 minutes left, if that. Um, but yeah, I would say one of my follow up questions is for the 35 people that are here, what is something that's planned at Remix that's maybe not super secret, but like you know you let it out. You can.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. We've got tons of really cool things. So there's the deferred API that Ryan demoed back at Reactathon. That makes it really, really easy to add a loading spinner for something that takes a long time. So you can decide whether you want to server render it or have a loading fallback in place. Instead, and you can even like A/B test that, and like it doesn't take any weird changes to your code or anything. It's remarkable, and that's all enabled by React 18 streaming in Suspense. It's super cool. Um, we also are unreacting React router, so we're going to make a remix router, and so you can use all of those cool features with other frameworks. Which means Remix very soon will support Vue and Angular and Svelte and Solid.js and like all of the things you'll be able to use with Remix. Um, so we're not going to dedicate anything, any of our cycles into supporting more than React, Vue, and Preact, I think. But once you see those, then anybody else can build, something that works with the others. So yeah, that's another thing that's pretty cool. We're also turning the Remix compiler into a plugin. So you can plug it into a Webpack config, or you could put it into a Vite config or whatever. So it can plug into your existing build tooling and stuff. Of course, like you still need to run your server and stuff just like you do with anything. But yeah, all the conventions and everything you get for free, just install this plugin. So that's another thing I'm really looking forward to. And then we also are hoping eventually to be able to go build free. And so you literally, there is no build, compile, anything. And there are, especially Dino, where you can write in TypeScript and run it. And now Bun, a new really cool JavaScript runtime, runs TypeScript natively. The only thing is JSX, but there's also the HTM project from Jason Miller, where you can write JSX like syntax as template strings. And it's actually really cool. And so you could do that, be completely build. Actually, I think Dino actually supports JSX out of the box. So if you were doing Dino, you could do TypeScript and JSX and still be build free with Remix, and I think that would be pretty legit. Ryan's got a demo where it actually works, so that's Remix v3, and Remix v2 is like compiler plugin thing, um, probably in the next couple months. So yeah,
Wow.
that's a
Wow.
bunch of stuff for you.
Yeah, I think it's super fascinating. I've been watching so many, uh, so many of these tools like push, a lot of their like what you would it used to be considered part of like your front end development ecosystem, and it's like being pushed further and further and further towards the infra, and then the infra is being abstracted, like the infra is being abstracted away from those users completely by things like Dino, Cloudflare, all these runtimes that are like, hey, why don't we do that? Like, why don't we just handle that stuff for you? And so like it's like yeah, I like, by the way, bun that you brought that up. I wasn't gonna bring it up because there's so much hype around it already, but now that you brought it up, I can't I can't fathom how fast that is. Like, and people are talking about like, oh yeah, it's super fast. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is like your eyeballs face melting, death metal playing as you're shooting Mach 20 into the sun fast. This is it, I oh okay. It's 30 times faster at running npm scripts than npm.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's pretty wild how fast this thing is. And it makes you wonder if maybe a bigger JavaScript runtime, like a browser vendor, would actually just buy him and say, "Come, let's figure out how we can swap this out for what we've got." I don't know. This is certainly not something that this is a much lower level of abstraction from where I normally operate.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, super interesting. We have a remix demo that is deployed to. I thought it was Dallas, but I think it was in Seattle, and I'm here in Utah. And I was seeing like 25 millisecond response times or less. Like one time I got 13 millisecond response time on a mutation. So it mutates the database and sends back a response. Now, data mutations, like database is like a SQLite. It's normally pretty dang fast anyway, but all of that's just nuts. Or even just like the initial page load was 20 milliseconds. Once you get that fast, it actually doesn't matter anymore. From a at least from a single user's perspective. Now, like if we're talking about thousands, hundreds of thousands of users, yeah, like that speed is really going to make a big difference. Um, so yeah, I'm excited about Bun as well.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned like the low levels. Like probably the reason why this is so fascinating to me. Like I'm pretty close with the Wrangler 2, the Cloudflare Worker CLI. And if anybody's not familiar with that, you should go check it out. It's github.com/Cloudflare/ Wrangler 2. We rewrote the CLI from Rust to TypeScript, and everybody's like, "That's a bad idea. Rust is so much faster."
You're going backwards.
And we're and then it came out with all these features, and the DX was like a million times better. And they're like, "I don't care if it's faster.
Yeah,
This is so much nicer to use." And we're like, ah. So it even then though, like we are fairly close, like getting lower level with that tool. And an example is we're using ES build. And so like all the bundling, all the TypeScript, you could write your worker in TypeScript, all that stuff can be done because we bundle it. We handle that for you. And it's like Bun came out and it was just like, I do everything. I could test too, by the way.
yeah,
And I was like,
that's
wasn't that was like Rome Tools or something was planning on doing
yeah.
all that. And like Jared's just like in a basement, just like just build this thing in Zig of all languages.
Yeah,
I was like, all
yeah. I've
right.
never heard of it before. So that's wild.
But what? So you had mentioned I haven't got any follow up questions. So and I'm
Oh,
not asking.
I saw one.
You want to do more
Well,
Marvel
I saw
questions?
yeah. There was another person asked if I'd plan to visit Latin
Oh,
America.
I missed that. Sorry,
Um,
George.
yeah, Jorge probably, but
Jorge.
yes.
Sorry, Jorge. Thank you for the
Yeah.
correction.
So no, that's okay. I know that you care. So I would love to visit Latin America. I had an opportunity a while back, like we were talking about it, and then it just didn't work out. And so yes, I would love to visit. It's just never worked out. So if you've got a conference or something that you know of, then let me know, because yeah, I'd love to. And then somebody else asked about um, if I seen any of the Marvel series on Disney Plus. Um, oh yeah, that's Michal. I do they have Marvel series stuff? Or yeah, that's all on Disney Plus. Yeah, that's where I watched it all.
Yeah.
So
So,
oh, but he's probably asking about the series. Yeah, we watched the what's that WandaVision series. That one was kind of weird, kind of interesting. I think I liked it. Um, oh, actually, you know what? On the Marvel thing, so one my least favorite is the Doctor Strange one, the new one. Um, that one was like, wow, really dark. I wish I hadn't seen it. It's haunting my dreams. Yeah, I didn't like that one at all. Yeah, and it's super weird too. But anyway,
fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, so since we do have Ryan in the chat and we had brought up Solid, what's your take on Solid? Especially in regards to Remix and that whole ecosystem.
yeah. So I don't have enough context around Solid to comment much. You'll notice you. I don't think that I've tweeted about it at all. I have gotten into conversations with Ryan on Solid and versus React a little bit, or versus Remix and Marco and everything a little bit, but I haven't gotten super deep into it, and so I don't feel qualified to answer or to provide an opinion. Um, so with all of that said, I guess I'll provide an opinion. No, like just a little, just some thoughts from me.
All right.
Um, it is concerning to me that um, we seem to have a lot of trouble with the magic of React and use effect and dependencies and all of that. There's plenty of React specific things you need to understand to avoid problems. Granted, you don't really run into those issues when you're using Remix because you don't use those things as much. So you run into the problems less when you're using Remix. But yes, those problems do exist. Um, the From what I've seen of Solid, it appears to have resolved those problems in exchange for other ones. For example, and so then it's just like which one of these problems do we hate the least, right? But you can't do an early return from a component because of the signals and how they work. Like I said, I haven't dug too deep into it, but I know that you can't do that. You need to have a special component for iterating over a list of items. You can't just use JavaScript and maps and stuff. This is actually a thing that I really hated about AngularJS and I loved about React is that I just use array methods and stuff. Of course, like there is some implementation detail leakage there because you have to have a key prop when rendering arrays. So like it's not perfect, but I just really and once you understand it, then it makes sense. And I'm sure this is the same thing with Solid. Once you understand why you can't do an early return and why you do need to do use a component for iterating, then it makes sense and it's no big deal. But that's all that I would say is that like we seem to be looking at all of the problems of React and focusing on the problems when we're evaluating it compared to other options without looking at the problems of those other options. And that's pretty common. And this is why, sometimes um, people cheat on their partners is because they see all the problem of the partner and they don't look at the problems of the person they're cheating with. I don't know. There's probably more to that. That's probably a bad metaphor. But yeah, like I think that it's easy to see the problems of the things that you've been using for a long time, and it's harder to see the problems of the new thing. And that's
Mm,
just nature. Like that's human nature.
mm.
I don't, and so I don't want to say like don't look into Solid. I think people should look into Solid, and I think that it's a good goal for us at Remix to support Solid as well as other UI libraries. But those are just some of the concerns that I've had and things that I would look into if I had time to look into Solid.
Okay. Okay. So you basically your take is if you do check out a new thing, just make sure that you're also looking at its trade-offs as well, not just all of its new shiny features.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is make sure that you have the problems that it's solving.
Mm.
Um, like a lot of people are jumping. Well, I shouldn't even say that. Like Twitter makes you think that React is losing mind share and that like React is on its way down. I don't know if you've looked at any stats of either downloads or extension installs or anything like the DevTools extension is a really great metric for usage, right? It's because developers who are using it are probably installing the extension. But those are going up still.
Hmm.
So I don't know where people are getting this idea that React is on a downward trajectory. But Solid is also on its way up.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
so there is something there for sure. Like if we'd all just ignored every new thing, then we'd all be using AngularJS or whatever, jQuery, or whatever. So I think it's worth looking into, certainly, especially when you see smart people who are like really into it, or like people you respect and friends and stuff. But yeah, just make sure that you have the problems that it's solving because you're there. In my experience, people seem to have the lower hanging fruit than how fast their component re-renders. Um, so yeah, and I'm sure that's not the only thing that it solves. Of course, there's the DX of like use effect and all that, but like I said, with Remix, you barely use effect.
Yeah.
You only use it for focus management, and when that's all you're using it for, that is not hard. So
Well,
yeah,
I'm super excited about React Query version 4, aka Query. which is
Uh-huh.
going agnostic. And I can't express to people. I keep, because like I always see this like, oh, state management, or service stuff, and I'm like, no, 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 no. This is async management system. That's what query is. If you can wrap your mind around just like anything async can be passed into query, you are you have all this power. And I just love that fact that like for React in particular, it was like one of the biggest foot guns was how people managed how they managed their service layer, and basically turned use effect into a foot gun
Mm.
unintentionally. And this was like one of those things that it's like I could just suggest this and help people just innately. I wanted to move on real quick though to another question. It says probably too
Actually,
late.
Jake, really quick, I just wanted to respond
Oh
because
yeah,
Ryan did respond in the
yeah,
chat, and I just wanted to say, I wanted to add that Ryan, you really impressed me. You're very level-headed, and people criticize on both sides of the framework debate a lot, and I'm just really impressed with you and how level-headed you are on all of this. It's probably really frustrating, a little like because people don't understand, like me. And so I just appreciate what you've done for your community as and being a good example there. So yeah, keep up the good work. And I think there's there's definitely something there. Absolutely, and I really look forward to seeing people who start working, making remix and solid work together, and seeing what sorts of cool things we can do there. So anyway, you
yeah.
can take it away, Jacob.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I also love the solid community, and it's a great example of I would say Ryan's approach to things like that response, which is like you said, this is very tempered and objective. Yeah. So Anna Codes asked, um, how do you keep up with all the new developments in front end? As a newbie dev, I find it so overwhelming. This is one of those perennial problems in especially the JavaScript ecosystem. And I know that we've answered this for people in KCD and whatnot. So take it away.
Yeah, keeping up with things. For me, the first thing that you have to acknowledge is that it's impossible to keep up with everything. There is no way that you're going to be an expert in Bun and Solid and React and Vue and Elm and Dino and Node and like all of these. There's no way that you can be on top of all of that stuff. And so this is why I haven't looked into Solid yet, because I've just decided I do not have the time to dedicate um, um, a really solid look. No, no pun intended, but yeah, that was a good one. At Solid or at Astro, um, I get enough of a look into it to be able to understand I think what I think is trying to be accomplished there. But yeah, not enough to feel like I can say definitively and give opinions, and that's why I try to preface my opinions, by saying I am not qualified to have an opinion. But yeah, I think that it's first of all, yeah, it's just good to acknowledge that you cannot be an expert at all the things, and so you have to decide what are you not going to do. It's or I guess rather, what are you going to do? It's easier to answer that question. And if something shows up in your Twitter feed that isn't within that, I mean, you don't ignore it, of course. Like you don't want to be an ostrich with their hand in the sand, working on Flash, and then all of a sudden Apple just destroys your business. But I do think that diving deep is something that you should really just focus on what is most interesting to you, and then of course what you can support yourself on, right? So like unless you are independently wealthy already, you probably do have to make money. And so, like, focus on what can you make money doing. And frankly, right now, that's React for sure. Like, nobody can argue against that. Like that, you can make money doing other things, of course. But the easiest path to making money right now as a front end developer is React for sure. There are just way more jobs out there for that. And that will be the case for an exceedingly long time. Even if everybody starts moving over to Vue or whatever, um, there will always be code bases all in React that need somebody. So if you're looking for job security, React is a great one. Job security is a front end dev. React is a really good one. Um, but at the same time, it's really fun to be involved in something new from the very start. And there are absolutely jobs for Solid, I'm sure, and for Vue, and for Svelte, whatever. And so you also factor in, what do you enjoy doing? And some people are able to do, React at the day job and then Svelte and or whatever on their side projects, and that's fine too. Um, I think that it's really valuable uh, to avoid getting overwhelmed by just deciding what you're going to focus on. Some people don't want to be a specialist though. Some people want to be a generalist, and that's also fine. I can't speak to that specifically because I decided to specialize. I was actually thinking about that recently. I think the it's there provided that the thing you specialize in is in high demand, you can make really good money doing that. Um, the risk is that if you choose something to specialize in that nobody needs, like you're a hand surgeon and all of a sudden nobody has hands anymore. That's a bad metaphor, but like as an you're a Flash developer, and all of a sudden Apple kills your business,
You're
right? Like
dropping so many great metaphor gems,
bad
Ken.
metaphors, yeah. But yeah, so just make sure if you decide to specialize that you're specializing in something that probably is going nowhere for at least as long as it would take for you to pivot, right?
Right.
So I was an Angular developer for a long time. I pivoted to React. So um, anyway, focus. I think especially early on, and then yeah, and then do stay up to date with what's going on. So I have newsletters. The Cooper Press newsletters are great. I get every week, and that just kind of keeps me abreast of what's going on. And then Twitter is a garbage fire, but it also is a pretty good source of new things like Bun. That's I saw Jared tweeting about it for months before he announced the release. So um, yeah, just be careful of Twitter because Twitter really makes things seem like reality when they really are not. Um, I, you've got to believe me, folks. React is not trending down. It is not dying. It is ridiculous. Anybody who suggests that React is dying is living in a different world than we do, because React is not dying. Um, Other frameworks are becoming very interesting, but if you are looking for something to learn and get into, you will have a very very successful future working with React. That's just a fact.
Yeah. To follow up with that, I went a slightly different route where I did go the generalist route, and I've worked on a lot of weird things, including a lot of front end in banks. Yeah, I'd done a little bit of DevOps as well when I was there, and a little bit of back end. I was 100% doing everything at the startup when I first got my first job. Um, and one thing that I bet on, and it was the only thing I bet on, was TypeScript. Very early on, I was like, TypeScript is gonna go places, and everybody was just like, "You don't know what you're talking about. You're right out of boot camp. It's flow all day." And I was like, I like this TypeScript thing, and I stuck with it. And that bet could have gone bad. It could have very easily. Um, but it worked out. And another one of those things where it's like, I tried out different technologies here and there, but at no point was I like, hey, I'm gonna dive super super deep into these things. I got the furthest technology I got was into was things was React and things around React, and that was because at the startup the front end was React, and at the bank that I went to, the front end was React. And then at the other bank I went to, the front end was React. And so there was like, I think I'm gonna dive deeply into this particular one. And anything backend related, middleware related, things like GraphQL, technologies around like layers upon that. I tinkered with them. If it wasn't something I was using at work, I would just tinker with different technologies as they came up. The best source that I found for keeping up with very low effort, so that you're not getting overwhelmed because you don't have to try everything. uh just like if something interests you, you can tinker with it. You just create a little side project, give it a little tinkering, and then abandon it, like the graveyard of repositories I have. And and that's podcasts. So you have things like Syntax FM. uh I'm gonna blank on all the podcasts now that I've brought it up. um what do I got here?
That's the only one that matters.
It's honestly one of the first ones I picked up right out of the boot camp. That was like 4 5 years ago now, I think.
Hmm.
And oh,
No,
JS
I actually I
JS
really
Party.
like. Oh yeah, JS Party's good.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really like Syntax FM. Those guys do a great job. Um, I am super on board with you with podcasts as a good mechanism for staying up to date with what's going on. I used podcasts a lot when I was getting started as well.
Hmm.
I don't listen to tech podcasts very much. The only one that survived my purge was Syntax FM for me. But
Nice.
yeah, there are tons out there that are they're fun and interesting. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And
super
if
good.
you only ever listen to Syntax from beginning to start, and JS Party, which is a changelog spinoff, those two will keep you up to date on front end technologies, and even on the bleeding edge a little bit. And again, very little effort because you're just listening to other people talk about it and break it down.
Mm.
So, but I'm gonna say with that, we could wrap it up. I think that you probably want to get back on your what do they call it? One wheels, one wheelie,
Yeah, one wheel
one wheel.
because it's got one wheel.
All right. And I definitely appreciate you showing up, Kent. It's been phenomenal having you. I shared your Twitter, I shared your Discord community, uh, a couple times. Everybody, I suggest you go check those things out. Please also check out my Twitter. Follow here as well. It does me a huge favor. And I plan on having other awesome guests like Kent here uh, show up and talk about awesome things like themselves.
Sounds good. Hey, thanks so much, Jacob. It was a really great pleasure to chat with you. I'm glad that the weather and worked out. I have been working out inside before and like had a school bus of children come in the middle of like the call and stuff like, oh, okay, I guess I don't own this area, so I got to get out of here. So that has happened before. So I'm glad that it is worked out.
That's great. I love I need to just do that more. Just go outdoors while I'm working. Just like go on a hike. Just like so yeah, yes,
Yeah, just
exactly that.
tether on your phone. Yeah, go wherever you want. It's
It's
great.
phenomenal. All right, Kent, you have a wonderful day and enjoy your outdoors adventure.
Thank you. We'll see y'all later.
Bye everybody.